you look at my life right now, you might either love me or hate me. And you might think, oh, he's another fake guru, flexing a fake and materialistic lifestyle. But here is the truth.
Garage, I got 100 cars, just for the underdogs. The teller just asked me how I want the cashy. I told him 100 large. I want them gold wraps, printed up double R.
I'm pretty sure that you already watch hundreds of origin story type of videos, and that's an amazing thing because I truly believe that we live in the best times to make money online and build businesses. But this story is a little different, and it doesn't start 2 years ago or 3 years ago or even 5 years ago. It starts almost 10 years ago. And before I get into the whole backstory and how I started this journey, I want to give you some context and also a history lesson. So I grew up in a small town in an Eastern European country called Romania. And you see, Romania is a post-communist country. So we didn't have the terms entrepreneurship or business until like 1989. Nobody was able, if they weren't part of the system, to start a business. I was born in a modest, normal, average family. My parents weren't entrepreneurs. My grandparents had like farm jobs. We lived in the countryside. All my life, I was destined to have a normal life. I didn't know what being rich is or having money. I didn't really see money growing up, but we lived okay. I grew up in an amazing family. I have an older brother. My parents did a decent job. We never really traveled. We had one vacation per year in the country. We had money problems. We had all that stuff, but we were okay. It's not like we needed more than that. But everything changed for me at the age of 13. That's when my life took an interesting turn. If I'm being honest with myself, until that point, I didn't really have a reason to want more from life. We lived on 1,000 euros per month, and in a country like Romania, that was the norm. My mom was an accountant and my dad was a firefighter. They had normal jobs, but there was a problem. So like I told you, I have an older brother, and growing up, my older brother was like a role model to me. He was like the perfect kid, well-behaved, straight A student. He's a really good person. He was like a shield to me. Like whenever I got in trouble, he was there protecting me. Whenever something happened, he was there protecting me. And at the age of 13, he was 19 and he needed to leave for university. That's when I felt for the first time in my life to get my life together. And you might think, what the fuck? How a kid that's 13 gets this feeling to get his life together? But as a kid, I grew up normally. I played a lot of video games. I used to obsess over League of Legends and Counter-Strike. I had a group of friends. I wasn't an introvert and all that stuff. I was doing a lot of sports, but I also was chubby. I was eating a lot of shit. So when I thought about getting my life together, the first thing that came into my mind was getting in shape because I was fat for a 13-year-old kid. But also, the feeling of getting my life together came from a frustration, came from a lack, came from a void. I never felt like I had a father I could respect. So my father taught me a lot of things. He was a present father. He still is a present father. We never had fights or all that stuff. We kept our relationship clean, and I love my father. I really love him. But he had his issues. He had this problem with alcohol, and he wasn't abusing all that stuff. I know it's really popular to make villains out of our parents. No, he wasn't really abusive. He never hit me or my mother or anyone. He was just lacking ambition. He didn't want more for himself and for us. I felt like, okay, I need to become better than that. So at 13, I started going to gym. And fast forward 10 months later, after dropping a significant amount of weight, I didn't know when to stop. I started reading all this bullshit online on nutrition and gym and all that stuff. And I ended up being diagnosed with anorexia. From 72 kilos, I went straight to 37 kilos. I was basically a walking skeleton. That's the closest I've been to ending my life. Or it's not that I wanted to end my life. I was doing subconsciously, and also my body was falling apart basically. And that's when I realized how much pain I was causing around the loved ones. My parents were always crying. My grandparents didn't recognize me. All my friends treated me like I was dying. I was in terminal stage of cancer and all that stuff. And I saw the pain I was creating around me. That was the moment I felt like make a decision. I'm either gonna make some changes and I'm gonna survive, or I'll stay the same. I'll be in and out of hospitals and I'll die, basically. You might think, oh, that's such a traumatizing thing a kid that's 14-year-old can experience. And to be honest with you, that was the best thing that happened to me. It gave me this sense that I felt like I was having a second chance to life. So I took it. I took the second chance that God gave me, and it completely transformed me. So, all the kids that are at 14, especially in my country, is the time that we get in high school. I was a decent student. I got with good grades in a good high school, like studying maths and computer science. But I had no friends anymore. I was this guy that was obsessed with training, with eating good, documenting about anything that's health related in order to recover myself. I was the only weirdo in high school with Tupperware and like clean food. And my friends pushed me because I became this weirdo that I wasn't the same guy they knew before. The funny guy, the guy that had no boundaries, the kid that I was before. And also doing this whole documenting stuff of getting my life and my health together, I started discovering self-help, personal development. I started reading books, thing that I never used to do before. I discovered Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, all those guys that taught me something else, taught me to question everything that I knew until that point. I started questioning everything, how my parents raised me, all the beliefs and convictions that I had, and I started becoming a pain in the ass for everyone. I started getting into arguments and fights with my teachers, with my colleagues. They weren't really agreeing me anymore because I was like, yo, I can build businesses, I can be this guy. Maybe there is more to life than being an employee and going to uni and following the same path as everyone. And they were like, bro, are you fucking crazy? They didn't really heard the term entrepreneur until like 15, 16, because again, we didn't have no entrepreneurs to look up to. One day, my whole entrepreneurship journey started by having this stupid but awesome idea of selling oatmeal in high school. So I was basically obsessed with oatmeal. I tried everything, every recipe. I was trying to make the best oatmeal recipe with the least calories and make it the healthiest. So that's when my entrepreneurship mind started to build, because I looked around and I saw all the kids eating shit, like eating snacks, eating bad food, eating really cheap processed meats and all that stuff. And I was like, what if I do those oatmeals and start selling them to my colleagues and all the other people in high school, because I wanted to give them a better option of breakfast. They were already curious about all my creations because, again, they were looking like, what the fuck is this guy eating? Yeah. And one day I was just like, okay, let me buy some plastic Tupperwares and I'll gonna prepare something. Let me give some samples in the high school. So I did that, and guess what? People loved it. All my colleagues, like the guys that I knew, they were still my friends and ate those portions of oatmeal. They loved it and they started ordering it, and I was selling them for like €3 and €4 per portion. And guess what? 1 week later, I had hundreds of orders, not only in my high school but also in other areas in my county. So I was pretty amazed. I was doing hundreds in my mom's kitchen of oatmeal portions that I was selling and started making my first money, and it felt amazing. And it really gave me a perspective that, oh, maybe I can do this stuff. And I know it's really different, that most people don't have this entrepreneurship starter story, but for me that was really the start of the journey. But what came after, truly, it got me surprised. So like I told you, I was living in this small town from Romania. At 16, I got another crazy idea to move alone in the capital of Romania, Bucharest, with no money from my parents because they couldn't afford to sustain it there. I saved some money from selling oatmeal. I got a laptop and I was like, okay, I want to get out of my small town. My town had maybe 15,000 occupants, really small town, and it felt like a cage to me. So I wanted to break through the cage. I don't know how, but my parents agreed with it. They saw that I was responsible, that I was a good kid, that I'll deal well. I studied better that year and I applied at a better high school in the capital, and guess what? The universe worked for me and I got accepted, and also I got accepted to live in the dorms. They only had 3 rooms in the whole dorm and there were like 12 spots in the whole dorm. So I got one because I had pretty good grades. In that year, at 16, I moved into the capital with no plan, promising my parents that I'll be okay, I'll make money in a way or another. And the same thing happened. Thought, yeah, if I move here, people will be more open-minded and they'll listen to me and I'll make friends and I'll start hanging around people with businesses, but it wasn't that. I was more of an outsider than I was before. People thought of me like this weird kid that came from like the countryside. They weren't really giving me much attention. Professors treated me different than the other persons. I started to realize that I need to do the same things that I worked before. And I started selling oatmeal. The formula worked like magic. I gave some samples in the high school. Kids loved it. Soon I was delivering oatmeal in different high schools in the capital on a fucking longboard. And I still remember how I stopped doing that. It made me money, but I had this loyal customer, like 2 girls in this rich high school area. And they were paying me really good. Like whenever I delivered oatmeal to them, they used to give me 10 euros tip. And I was so happy, man. But one day I tried having those sustainable Tupperware, sustainable container to put the oatmeal, and it melted. And I felt so embarrassed. I felt so ashamed. I remember telling her, look, I'm sorry, I'll give you another free order, but after that, don't order from me anymore. That was the end of the whole oatmeal. I call that business Oatjoy, the whole Oatjoy story. And I said to myself, look, I'm tired. I can't continue to rush out of high school, go to my dorms, cook the whole oatmeal, then put it fast because the kids wanted when they had high school as well. So I needed to move fast and also maybe deliver oatmeal during breaks in high school. It was really tiring. So because I had a laptop, I was like, yo, let me try to do something with this with the laptop. Let me learn some skills. And between the ages of 16 and 18, it was the period of disasters. I tried everything. I tried dropshipping, Amazon FBA, affiliate marketing, even my own clothing brand. And I failed with everything. I was jumping. I was doing the same mistakes you see all the time. There weren't really guys online telling me how to do this stuff. This was happening between 2019 and 2020. So every guy you watch right now, they didn't really exist online or teaching about business models and all that stuff. Yeah, I tried everything. I made some chop change with freelancing, doing logos on Fiverr and websites for 100 euros and social media posts and all that stuff. I tried to grow team pages on entrepreneurship and I didn't make no money out of it. So I didn't really have direction. And the worst thing that could happen happened in 2020. The whole pandemic came and I was forced to go back home. So I came back to the place that I was running from, the cage I was running from, and I fell into the depression. I was also in a kind of toxic relationship. I was young and we didn't really know what we do. And for a couple months in that summer of 2020, I was like lost. I didn't know what to do. I was trying to make money, but I had no motivation. I was crying daily. I was feeling basically lost. So I knew I had to change something. And in September of 2020, I made a leap and I took a crazy decision to take, with all the money I saved back then, I rented a tiny studio apartment in the capital for like 300 euros per month. So I spent all my money on renting this tiny studio and I found myself with no other income and no money in my pocket. So I had to find a solution pretty quickly. The only thing I thought back then is just get jobs. I knew how to do logos, how to use Photoshop, how to make like basic websites. So I thought, yes, somebody might need me. In 1 week, I applied to every job possible I found on like eJobs, Best Jobs, all the job posting platform possible. 2 weeks later, I already had 3 jobs, 2 part-time jobs and 1 full-time job. While still in high school with no diploma, from nothing to having 2k euros as a salary, it felt amazing, but I was employed for almost 2 months. That's when I knew I'm made to build businesses. Because I hated every second being at a job, not because I had a boss, but because I couldn't be creative. I had some clear guidelines I needed to follow, and I hated every second of it. I kind of got in fights with all my employers, and I knew I'm not good to do that. And also, in the meantime, I was building my personal brand, which kind of started to pop up. And here I was in November 2020, jobless, with some money that I saved in order to have enough money to pay my rent for another 3 months. I got a call from someone that followed me because I used to post content about my whole journey at the end of 2020. An entrepreneur got my number. He told me, I really like your posts. I want the same post as you or the same design. Can you do those for me? And what's your price? And I was scared, but I told him 500 euros per month, and he said yes. 30 minutes passed and like I got another call, and the guy told me, yo, I'm the friend of the other guy you talk with, he told me you charge 500 euros per month for social media posts. Can you do the same for me? And I said, yeah. So basically in one day I had two clients paying me 500 euros, so basically a good salary in Romania. And I was like, this is the start of something. And because those clients were legitimate businesses, I was forced by them, and they helped me with an accountant and all this stuff, to open my first legal business. Because I was finally 18, I could open a legal business. That's how I started my first business, my social media marketing agency. And yeah, 2021 is the year I started my entrepreneurship journey with a real business, with a real LLC company. Yeah. And in the first 3 months of running an agency, it was hell. I had at peak 13 clients. I was doing all the work. I didn't have the courage, the trust to hire other people to do it for me. So I was basically a glorified freelancer while I was trying to also build my personal brand. I think I posted my first YouTube video back in February or January 2021. Yeah, I got burned. I got burned really bad. I was paid on average between 300 and 500 euros per client. Yeah, I was working like a slave basically. I was really close to giving up, but I switched to international clients, some clients not from my country. I remember after 500 cold calls, I got my first international client paying me 1.5k euros. I spent 1.2k euros on delegating to the media buyer guy, but I was really happy because I finally had a client that respected me, and also I had someone taking care of the delivery, and I felt free. And 4 months later, 1 month before actually finishing high school, 1 month before turning 19, I hit my first 10k month. This 10k per month seems like holy, and to be honest, like, it was life-changing for me back then, because I was paying, my rent was still 300 euros. I basically had some subcontractors, I was paying them 3k euros, making between 6 to 7k profit. And as a kid at 18, that was like, in Romania, that was like, I was balling. So I decided not to go to uni. I decided not to take my final exam, which was a really controversial topic when I was making the video on why I'm not gonna take my final exam in high school. Everybody jumped on my head, but that decision changed my life. I told my parents, and taking the fact that my mom wasn't my accountant, and she knew the money I was making, they respected my decision, and I decided to go fully on business. In June, at the end of June that year, in 2021, I finally flew for the first time with an airplane. I had my first vacation that I paid myself in Amsterdam. It was a really weird vacation. It was the first time I actually traveled, which again changed my perspective a lot. And yeah, 2021 was my first year of entrepreneurship, which turned out to be my life-changing year, and the year that I created the most snowball effect, because I finished that year traveling in Paris for Christmas. First time I had enough money to give my parents a lot of things for Christmas, like valuable gifts. And also I finished my New Year's Eve in Milano. I was drinking like Dom Perignon on the New Year's Eve. I had a full course meal. I paid my first 1k meal, and I felt ecstatic. Like, everything felt so new to me. Like I was finally doing something. And then 2022 came. Focused fully on my agency and also my personal brand. People started noticing my results, my agency results, and they started being curious about how to do it. Nobody in Romania was talking about building an agency and all that stuff. So I spent the first 3 months in 2022 developing a program for starting an agency. I launched it in April while it's still scaling my agency. And at the pre-launch, we did 120k euros cash collected, which, again, I couldn't believe it. How building a personal brand for 3 years and selling almost nothing to my audience finally paid off. And how easy people bought things from me because I gave them so much value for such long time. Build another business, the info products instantly exploded for the Romanian market. And also my agency was exploding. So basically, at my 20 birthday, I spent it in Monaco with no budget limit, living like the ultra well. And that's the year I felt for the first time that I might get really rich. I might make good money. And it was inevitable that in that year I hit another holy grail in business, the 7-figure mark. It was September 2022. Everything was just aligned. Everything was going perfectly. Too perfect. I finished that year spoiling myself with one of my dream cars, a Bentley Continental GT. And again, all my life felt like a vacation, felt like everything was going really well, really well. But when everything is going well, the universe and God has their ways to teach you a lot of lessons. So 2023 for me was a year of turbulence, so to say. All the mistakes that I did as a kid in business, and if you start a business, no matter if you are a kid or if you're a fully adult, you're gonna make mistakes. So I truly made some mistakes in business in my first 2 years that kind of hit me in my third year, basically in 2023. So a lot of things happened. I got my first hate online because I grew so much. I flexed because I was a dumb kid and all that shit. And also I had to make some quite drastic changes in my agency. I had to fire a lot of people, also hire my first C-level executives, which again was a really tough job. It really stressed me a lot. So 2022 was a year that I kept growing, but God had to teach me a lot of lessons, truly. And at the beginning of 2024, again, God continued to teach me a lot of lessons. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. We had a 2-year relationship, so she was one of the persons who saw me growing from nothing, and I'm truly grateful for that. We broke up for, of course, being young kids, you know what it is. I learned a lot of things from that. And in 2024, I kind of felt lost in terms of the business went well. I had money to travel everywhere I wanted. I had money to buy watches, cars, and all that shit, but I just felt empty. I felt empty because I didn't let myself live, and I let myself slide in other areas. So for example, once I started making money with the business and all this stuff, I wasn't really serious with my body and health, and I got fat. I was so focused on business and money that I just kind of neglected all the other stuff in my life. Also, I neglected my relationship with God, which turned out to be one of the answers to why I felt lost, and I got a lot of answers from that. And I felt like I needed a challenge in 2024, and I embraced the biggest challenge in my life, going into software. I invested almost, we're going 7 figures now invested. I haven't launched yet, which is, I'm still in a big hole with my money in cash flow wise, but I was good with investing my money in crypto back in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. So that made me some good money as well. So I could keep up with the cash flow, with all that stuff. Things were okay. But so the reason I felt like I needed a challenge was because I felt like I mastered the agency game. We went to 7 figures with that business in 2 years. I felt like I mastered the info product. I built the most profitable and the most amount of cash collected in an info product business in Romania organically. I helped lots of people. We had more than 3,000 clients, more than 1,000 case studies and results in a small market, which is impressive. It's kind of impressive. I saw like US and UK based info products that were shit and they couldn't give results and all this stuff. We had things in place, but still I made this big investment, and I chose in 2024 to just rebuild myself in all terms, so to say. So the 2024 was like a year of rebuilding everything. I'm really passionate about the whole AI stuff and what's going on through AI. Reason why we have 2 softwares now cooking, and they have AI parts in them as well. And also I took another big challenge, doing this type of content in English and not in my native language. And trust me guys, I probably need 3-4 hours, 5 hours to talk about my whole journey. So probably it was easier if I had my Romanian content in English and I could just give you snippets. But so much shit happened in 5 years of my life, and the reason it happened so much is because I chose to just go straight on with everything I did, and most of the times I did what I felt. I made a lot of mistakes. I tested a lot. I experienced a lot. I wasn't really the type of person to postpone decisions, so I was really on go mode. That's probably the whole description. And I was on go mode because I have this mentality. It's a simple mentality, but I really started from zero. So I delivered food on a fucking longboard. I worked jobs like 500 euro per month jobs, so minimum wage jobs. I had periods in my life eating only canned tuna and like chicken bought from the store, and that's all. And I had 1 meal per day. I had those crazy hustle months that really damaged my health and my body. I went through all this shit. I went through betrayals, I went through bad customers, I went through legal stuff. I went through basically everything until the age of 23. So God blessed me with a lot of lessons, and because I went through all of this and I built everything from the ground up, I wasn't really scared of losing it, because I knew I could always build it up again. And that's why I'm taking this challenge in building not from the ground up. I'm showing myself to an audience that didn't hear about me and that doesn't trust me yet. But I think those challenges and those circumstances and everything that happened in my life, it was just like a snowball effect, and everything kind of puzzled in, even the bad things that happen and also the good things that happen. And that's what most entrepreneurs don't talk about, and most guys talking about their whole origin story don't talk about, is that a lot of the things that happened in my life were good circumstances. For example, I started my social media marketing agency in 2020. Like, nobody really talked about social media marketing, and we didn't really have short form content back then, so that thing was popping. And also I started it in a period that the whole online space was booming because of the pandemic and all that stuff. Yeah, other things, I had a 2-year start, like learning to live alone at 16 and taking care of myself, and at 18 starting up a business. Like, I was already a responsible individual. I never drank alcohol in excess, never smoked. I always kind of kept this composed persona in terms of distractions, and money distracted me in a lot of ways, but not in destructive ways, not in hurting people and all that shit, or hurting myself. Yeah, there were some slacking, but not in a bad way. And because of all those circumstances and also who I am as a person, my psychic, I tend to be a really optimistic person, and I'm dealing really well with stress. All those things, like, they worked in synergy, they were aligned, and they transformed who I am today. And I'm far from being perfect. I'm far from being a perfect example. I'm far from maybe the results that you might see other 20 or 21, 22-year-olds in US have. Yeah, I've built impressive things until this point, but I'm not impressed at all personally by myself. Yeah, I'm grateful for everything that I built, but there is still a lot more things to build. And this is the next challenge, building this English content personal brand, truly giving you real sauce, real things that I learned in a really unique circumstances. I truly come from the fucking trenches, guys. I'm not saying this in a way that this makes me better than other people that succeeded. No, in no way. I have true respect for everyone that became a better person and evolve themselves. So if you like this video, drop a like and subscribe. Give me a comment. Let me know what you thought about it. So I'm really thankful for everything, and we'll see each other in the next video. See ya.